morning, everybody, and welcome. Thank you for taking the time today to join us. And let's take a look at some of the fun things going on in vulnerability management and why our life has been a little bit more crazy of late, only because of these funky new services, features, functionality we've been dealing with the cloud coming to the table. So what we want to do today is take a look at the challenges that cloud services have brought to us in vulnerability management and some of the things we can actually do to help deal with those. So let's get right into this. Now, might be wondering maybe who I am, anything related to me in essence, and I am just trying to advance my slide. There we go. Gotta like it when technology works. Jonathan Resto, I'll be your guide today on this. I've been working with SANS for over 13 years now. Started off way back in the good old days doing things like mentoring, community instructing, etc. And I've taught a wide variety of courses in SANS. But of late, I've been focusing on the leadership curriculum, specifically on my course that I'm the co-author of, and that is the Leadership 516, Building and Leading Vulnerability Management Programs. I'm also involved with the SANS Technology Institute. I'm on the faculty research committee, helping guide the students through the research component of the master's degree that we have. And also actually end up grading the papers as well as the webinars that are associated with that. And recently I've started actually with another class with the SANS Technology Institute, which is their, I think it's officially 6101 class, but basically it's a 24-hour assignment. You have to figure out the malicious evilness that I put into the network and present it back to the C-suite. So that's some of the stuff that I've been working on with SANS and the SANS Technology Institute. Also own and run consulting companies, ZenSec, and I even have a day job. It's like so many things, so little time. Yeah, I work for the federal government is where I work now, specifically on a project that's helping modernize and collapse a bunch of the networks that we have here. And surprise, surprise, we're probably looking at cloud services. But in my spare time, which seems to be really lacking of late, I do enjoy the outdoors, have my private pilot license, and I also enjoy driving my 3 children completely crazy. And I think they enjoy the same in reciprocation for me. So that's who I am, but that's not why we're here. What we want to take a look at today, though, is vulnerability management. Kind of a passion of mine, a little biased, probably spend way too much time talking about it. But yeah, want to take a look at vulnerability management. What was it we used to have? Here's the agenda for us. What we used to have, why is it different for us today? And what do we need to do to succeed? And then once we're done all that, we'll wrap things up and take questions that people may have as well, just on a presentation or otherwise. So if you do have any questions, please feel free to post them out and we'll see what we can do to be able to answer those as time permits at the end. Now, vulnerability management, the good old days. I remember when, walked up hills to school both ways in the snow bear. Yeah, you know the story. No, it used to be easy is what everybody used to say. Yeah, we'd have a scanner in the environment because that's really what people thought vulnerability management was. It would find all the problems for us out there. And then we got things patched. Life was easy, wasn't it? If we were lucky, we had agents put into the environment as well. Otherwise, there were all network-based scans that we ran. But when agents came, that's what we started using. And often with the vulnerability management team, what we did as well, we often had some background and we understood the operating systems. And if we're really lucky, the people working on vulnerability management may have even had some system administration experience or even or at least some training, not even, at least some training on that. And that's what we worried about. Life was so easy back then. Now, those that have been working in vulnerability management for the past 25 years, and some of that is a little tongue-in-cheek, as you'd agree. But things were simpler for us. Even though we still have the backlogs, we still have the blockers of things we just couldn't fix, life seemed to be easier. There are days you wish you could just go back. But that's not the reality that we live in today. So what challenges do we have? When we first got these cloud services, everybody said, oh yeah, cloud's going to make things so much easier for us, right? Yeah, I totally disagree with that. Part of the reason why our environments are running so much faster than they used to. Change is continual and constant. New services, features, and functionality are able to be brought online literally in minutes. And yeah, we're not set up to handle that in vulnerability management. And in a lot of cases, even other parts of the organization. But let's just stick to VM here. Things like our patching cycle, when we identify the patches and then it's gone through and all the testing happens, and then we've got to worry about scheduling with the maintenance windows. And we do that like in a 40-day cycle. That really doesn't work for us in a cloud services, where we have services coming online, or if we're doing continuous deployments where things may be upgraded on a weekly basis. It just doesn't work. So we really are set up to fail from the beginning, because all we've been doing is we've had our process and then we're band-aiding on or putting little side channels on the side of it to make it work in the environment. We really haven't gone back and rethought overall what's going on with the processes. But we'll talk about that coming up in a minute. But these are some of the challenges that we have. We aren't set up to run things correctly. Now, in the cloud, as I'm sure you're all aware, we have fun things like our infrastructure as a service, our platform as a service, the software as a service. We've got database as a service. We've got security as a service. We've got everything as a service out there. It's just everything really is a service, which is great. But at the same time, how the heck do I look at all this stuff? We've got infrastructure as a service. We can probably leverage our existing tools to help us. That may not be the best way, but we can do it. Things like platform, software as a service, and all of the other star as a service. Really, we're not set up to handle it. We need specialized tools. I need a good understanding of what the heck's going on here, let alone when you step up the model into things like SaaS with the, pardon me, the software as a service model, where most of that's with the service provider, and I may not be even able to scan. In most cases, SaaS, you can't unless you're looking at your custom code. But it is. The shared responsibility model comes into play. When I have my executive coming down and saying, do we have this problem? And I can't answer that, makes it a challenge for us. Now as well, we've got these functions as a service, or the serverless environment, whatever you wish to term it as. It really does equate over to some more problems. I actually have to talk to those developers that we've been avoiding dealing with. I have many a story on developers, from everything like hard-coded passwords, plain text in text files that are world readable, through to, because they have the admin rights, they've disabled all the capabilities on the box for us to even get a hold of it, talk to it, because why do we need all those agents? And probably everything in between. But we've been avoiding talking with the development teams. And yeah, stuff that we have in the cloud is really driving that we do have to talk to this. And we got to worry about some code management items out there. Now as well, we also got these funny little container things in our environments. Great, love them, make life easy, strip things down. Because they were supposed to be original intent. Those are supposed to be short-lived and non-changing, so immutable. Now, let's just see, do we actually have that? Do we really have short-lived containers? And then the benefit, at least, as well, of containers, because if they're immutable and short-lived, I should be able to find the problems beforehand, or at least change them and quickly adopt it out to production. I can remediate things before it hits production. Who knew we could do this? Yeah, but let's be realistic here. Are we really doing that? And then finally, that infrastructure as a code. Last thing we'll just mention off here as well with the cloud vulnerability management and why it's such a pain. It is infrastructure as code, the orchestration tools that we have run out there, CloudFormation, Resource Monitor, Bicep, Terraform. Recently, we've got OpenTofu joining the mix out there. I don't care what it is. They all can help us advance our environment. But from a vulnerability management perspective, I've got something new to the table again. I've got to worry about. I need to understand and see if we're actually putting configuration in there that shouldn't be. So am I following best practices, checking the code beforehand, and then to see if we've actually made some mistakes in the code. Yeah, code yet again. Dang it, here we go. But quite frankly, it comes across and feels like we are completely chaotic for what's actually happening inside our environments. And that we don't want to have. We've got to stop that chaos and really start to try and bring it together for us so we can understand what is going on inside our organization and have a non-chaotic vulnerability management program. Now, how do we do that? Well, let's take a look at some things that we need to worry about doing for our organization to really advance the program and start making this work in our environments. First of all, what do we need to do to be successful? We've got to worry about communication. It seems scary, seems silly to say this, but we have to. Traditionally, we've been horrible. IT in general is horrible at talking. We throw out all kinds of jargon, let alone we just prefer to stay over here and work with the systems. I have to go talk to people. Oh my goodness. Don't tell me I have to do that. But it is, we do have to talk with our partners. Our world is beyond complex now. There are so many things that our organizations are doing, the services, the features, the functionality, and we need to really get their expertise, let alone the fact that they're probably the ones doing the remediation. We need to be better talking and communicating with them. Reports that are tailored to these individuals as opposed to the out-of-the-box stuff that we've been throwing at them, everybody for years, that 50-page report and say, hey, here are all the problems, figure it out, send it over to them. Now, we've got to get better at that. Pardon me. I apologize, got a little cough going here. But we do need to tailor our reports and our metrics to the individuals in question. What do we mean by that? Let's actually generate a report that is focused on, in my example, what matters to Jonathan. Is it actually about your systems? Or could I log in and just see the data on a portal that matters to me? Are we able to do that? A lot of us aren't, but really it'll help improve our communication, let alone metrics. Now, inside organizations, we often generate a lot of metrics, especially VM, we can do a lot. And I spend a lot of time in the Leadership 516 course talking on metrics, and we offer recommended ones. But we need to make sure they're focused on what matters. Is it with the technical level metrics at the bottom end of the pyramid as we have, or are they operational level, or are we targeting the executives? All of these have different focus, different meaning, because understanding the overall organizational risk really doesn't matter to what's going on for the manager of the Windows operating environment and all the system administrators. They're just wondering and want to know what's going on in their part. So what's the risk related to it here? Or what are my mean times to resolve? Or what's my average detection rate? Or what's the reopen rate going for my part of the environment? Those kind of tailoring and better communications is what we need to do, let alone talking to the leadership team inside the organization. How do we effectively translate from the technical gobbledygook? Yeah, that's a really good term, isn't it? The technical gobbledygook that we have in security and take it over to business speak. Because that really is what we need to be able to do. Tell them about the program, what is going on, but put it into terms that they understand. It's kind of like talking between two languages. If I can translate from one to the other, it really does help. Because otherwise we're just doing the pantomime and loosely picking up the odd word. Leadership traditionally is speaking terms of the business. They have the business background. So talking to things like to people like the CEO or our chief marketing officer or the chief financial officer, they don't have a big technical background. We need to talk in terms that they help understand. So if you can be that communication translation interface between the two worlds, you'll actually do well in your career. But we need to have that effective communication. Secondly, we need some process changes. Remember I said at the start, we're just kind of band-aiding it on? Yeah. We need to revamp the progress or the processes to make sure that they are truly enabling us for how we're doing business today, instead of just trying to make what we have work and figure out how we do things. Yeah, let's actually optimize it, make it work. And maybe this is part of the thing we really should identify for the cloud migration or the cloud adoption components when we're first moving out to the cloud. For those that are just thinking and moving there now, really, let's actually identify it there, what we need to do, revamp, relook at, so at least leadership knows what has to happen. Now, for those of us that are already down the path, yeah, we may just need to blow things up and actually relook at it completely. But spending that time to truly ensure our processes are working at the speed that we need, that will really help move the program forward. As I mentioned before, those patch cycles, yeah, my organization, when it was the operations prime, we were fortunate enough to be able to say on the Microsoft, patches came out Tuesday. It was in the change management window by Friday. It was talked about if there were any objections by the Tuesday. We did the following Tuesday at our change management board. We did 2 weeks of testing with our QA QC team. If there were no problems, it was already scheduled in the next available maintenance window. We were on those Sundays, 1 to 3 a.m. every 2 weeks. So I could maybe get patches out the door in 3 weeks and 5 days. So 33 days, if it happened to fall, the window was that following Sunday. If not, we'd add another 7 days to the following week. So 28 plus 5, 33 plus 7, 40. So I could potentially hit it between 33 and 40 days to get a patch out the door. And that was considered great. But our tooling has changed, but our processes haven't. We need to look at that. As an example, we do a lot of stuff, definitely in the cloud. It's all based on images. Same with containers. All of this is created from images. So we should be able to scan, check this quickly in front. If there is a problem, let's get it remediated. We can do the testing as part of said build process. So at least all of the problems we know about and say needs to get fixed can be fixed faster, quicker before it's deployed to production. Now, a lot of us aren't tying in our processes, aren't modifying the process to look at the new reality of the organization. We need to change that. We have to in order to ensure we're running at the speed the business is, or us in vulnerability management, we really start slowing things down, or even if it's not slowing it down, we're not keeping up. It's like we're running behind the bus, trying to catch it as it's pulling away from the bus stop, or even quite frankly, driving down the road already at speed and we're trying to keep up with it. We can't do that. We aren't going to win. We aren't going to help reduce the risk. We aren't going to keep ahead if we aren't already on and moving at the speed the organization is. Now, we need some people to understand coding. Now, and I'm not just talking being able to code as an example, how I do, where, what do I need to do? Let's do a Google search. Oh, I find a snip of code, pull it down. Oh, it works. Great. Now I got the answer I need. Might not be the best thing from an understanding coding, but we do need to understand coding in general. The developers are taking over. Everything is code. Everything is scripted. Everything we're implementing, validating. Mentioned infrastructure as code. Great. One example. But also, everything's software defined. Look at our networks when we're looking at how do I configure my resource groups, my security groups, the VPCs or VNets that are out there inside our environments. Yeah, that's all done by configuration. We're even implementing policy as code. I must have, let's simple example, my password policy. There's code that's actually enforcing this, let alone how I orchestrate this inside my environment. We need to understand how that is being controlled, configured, running inside our environment. So we need a general understanding of what is going on from the coding perspective. Now, I'm not saying that we need to truly understand how developers are thinking here. Definitely not that. But I need to understand the basis as opposed to not even understanding the work that they're doing, how they have to conduct stuff, and how it is impacting our organization. I need to be able to write and do the translate from, remember that security technical gobbledygook? We went to business. How can I actually translate that over to talk with our developers? That means agile development is where most of us are. I need to be able to write the stories, or at least talk with the people to get it translated and put into the storyboard, helping create things like the evil users stories so they know how to test. Their expertise is coding, not security. We need to help them move forward, as well as we need to understand what is going on in our environment. We have to understand coding. Now, we also need to adopt automation in here. Lots of people say that's the benefit of cloud. I can do all kinds of orchestration automation and make things quicker, faster, better. Love it. Marvelous. But let's actually take advantage of this for ourselves. For the VM program. What kind of stuff am I talking about here? What am I meaning? There are examples of, let's pick on architecture patterns that have been posted out by the vendors to actually help us validate and check things automatically. So let's pick an example, image creation. We can have it so as soon as the image is marked as ready to go as a candidate to be included in the process, it triggers off something somehow in the organization. I'm not going to step into the vendor process, be it with the Amazon, say with a simple notification service and triggering off. Regardless, we can set the process flows up so when an image is created, automatically has the scanning functionality created for it or done for it, the results are sent off to the approver. If it's approved, then that image is actually placed into the inventory. So I'm tying into the process. I can have it set up so they're regularly checked. Pick on containers. You can do that. It's checked, say, how all the ones that are currently active in the environment, or if it hasn't been scanned in 30 days, whatever, I can automatically get the work being done for us, let alone tying into remediation. I can actually force actions inside the environment. Or if items aren't being added in that we deem are needed, let's pick on the example with tagging, that extra information we can add inside our environments. If I don't have the tags on there for the key items, like let's pick on things like criticality of the system, who's the business owner of it, or even what image was this created on and creation date. You don't put those, say, 4 pieces of information in there, I don't even let you run. I do not let this go forward and be marched into the environment. Sorry, you have not completed key critical components that are needed. You are torn down and notified that this is just not allowed to run because you didn't follow what we require. Why do I like context? Let's see. Criticality helps us understand in the vulnerability management perspective just how important this is and may change the SLAs for how fast it gets fixed. Business owners we need to talk to for the approvals. Understanding the image this is created from lets us know if we have snowflakes that are out there, those unique individual systems that aren't running on current versions inside our environment. 3 examples of the information, how that really ties back to us inside VM. But we want to also leverage it to try and find those problems before they exist. The example of scanning before it hits production. Yeah, we can do that. Tie it into our pipelines so we get the scanning done as part of the build process, so we don't even have the problem hitting production. That was the one drawback of our way back yesteryear. Remember that? Glory days, sunshine, rainbows. The problem we had is we really weren't seeing things till they hit production. We can fix that now. We can find so much ahead of time before it's even hitting production, before it can be essence found by the bad guys. Yeah, we're launching with 5 bugs or 5 vulnerabilities on this environment. Let's fix that before we know it's in production and the risk could be realized. Remove it. We can leverage automation to help us fix a lot of problems. And even some of the mind-numbing tasks we're still doing every morning. Let's pick on metrics creation. Now, you may laugh at this, say, yeah, we don't do this. There's a lot of organizations, we still do manual creations. We copy the data into the spreadsheet. And so that's the half hour, 40 minutes every morning, someone's tasked to generate today's metrics, and then it gets sent out. Yeah, let's move beyond that, because those tasks really are not job satisfying for our individuals that are out there. Now, we also said we need people that can understand cloud operations. We need people really who understand what's going on in this part of our environment. I'm not saying we need to be cloud experts out there, but we have to understand the basic concepts of the environment we're actually looking after. We need to tie into this. Often in organizations, when we brought in new cloud environments, it's great. There's a new operations team because there's recognized skills differences that are needed to help run it. So we have the legacy operation team or the enterprise space, as well as we have our cloud operation team. Great. We've got to work with two people, or two different groups, actually, not people. But at the same time, we were not often staffed with some new expertise, may not have had any extra resources brought on board as we've been moving the cloud services. So now our team needs to have the expertise, but we really do need that on board to truly understand, what does it mean by a Lambda function? What is that VNet that is out there, and what are the issues I have to worry about? How does Bicep even work? We need to understand how this is working so we know what's going on from a VM and how it can impact the VM program. Now, how do we find all these utopian people out there, those rainbow ponies that we have inside the environment for cloud operations and the coding components? How do you find these people? Because I'm sure right now, everybody that's on the line right now or listening to this afterwards, do you have too many people on your team helping vulnerability management? Or let's even broaden the scope in security. Too many people, they're sitting around collecting dust, twiddling their thumbs, bored. I don't know about you, but yeah, doesn't happen in my org. And we just don't have people. We don't have that luxury. So really, there's lots of opportunity for people out there. First thing we need to do, we need to look after the people we have. We're going to need to understand, what are the roadblocks? What's happening to them? Where are the challenges? And make sure we aren't even losing more people in the organization because they're just unhappy. We need to provide the opportunities for growth. And that will tie into some of the learning things that'll be coming up next. But yeah, it's a pain to try and get the right mix of resources, the senior, the mid-level, and the junior, to really have a fully robust and rolled out vulnerability management team, let alone how do I make sure they have the skills they have? So we're going to need to train them. I may be able to bring in some people. That's great. But if we can't, let's upskill the team we have. Let's look at it and see what are we actually need and are using in the organization and the skills we need the team. It's going to help tie into point one, keeping them happy, looking after our people, getting them the training needed. But it's going to also help us on the VM front. Now recognize, sometimes when we train our staff, helping ensure they have all the skills they need, then they end up moving on in their career. And as a manager, I actually don't object to that. Well, I do and I don't. I like seeing my people succeed, move forward, shows that you've helped prepare them for the challenges and they have the skills to continue advancing. Great, love it. And the other hand, I hate it because now I got a hole I got to worry about filling. The constant cycle of hiring in new people into the team and just being able to find the people to join the organization, but helps upskill the team what we need to do to get the right requirements, right knowledge inside the organization. Another thing we're going to need to do, and I'll call them the evangelists, but really those key people inside the operations teams. We've got to worry and work with our partners. Remember we said we got to communicate? Yeah, we've got to do that. But at the same time, we often have one or two people in the various op teams really that are in tune, I'll term it that way, but really have an interest in the security. They actually work well with us and they understand some of the concept nuance and are willing to learn more about it. Can we actually partner with that person in the organization? Yes, we're going to need to get management approval, But let's argue, can we get 25% of their time to help work and be that local presence inside that operations team to help communicate effectively to them because they understand that component, as well as talking back to us so we can use them and leverage those people inside the organization to really help us get vulnerability management and move it forward. What is important? What does it mean for the developers when we say stop using deprecated procedures? Or we need to use secure functions, like why is sprintf better than printf? Just simple examples, but being able to help answer the questions, be that local on the ground person that really can say why we need to continually do this. Why is this important? Why is it causing us problems? Those people we need to have available to us. So trying to get them can help us get the skills our team needs, at the same time get better on the communication front. Now, last thing that I think we need to continue to do more in general, non-traditional places where we've been hiring people. Yeah, we may need to bring in resources that have absolutely no skills related to the cybersecurity, but have an interest. But maybe they're effective communicators. They're great at putting together information. They've got the data analytics background, but they don't have the cybersecurity. Yeah, well, maybe we're going to should bring in some of those instead of just our narrow focus on, I need a cybersecurity expert with 5 years experience. No, be willing to mentor, train, augment the skills that they have, but those skills are also going to help plug our gaps inside the organization as well. So it really ends up being a win-win on both fronts, because their interest in security is going to come forward, but I gain some of the expertise on really, how do I do the data analytics and help generate the metrics inside the environment? Or maybe their communication skills are better so they could be the individuals that might be able to help talk to other parts of the organization, or at least help us frame the communication packages better. We've got to look to be able to see how we can try and plug the holes, just some of the methods we can do it, and where we can help address the gaps that our program has. Now, what have we done here? What have we said, just to wrap things up? But if you do have questions, please feel free to post them out in the Q&A right here. We'll see what we can do to get to them. First, we need to keep pace with how the organization is running, as I mentioned. Cloud services are really moving at lightning speed. I can spin up a service in my AWS, Amazon, the Azure, the GCPs of the world, no problem at all. And I can have a computing resource going in 3 minutes. Max. That'd be clicking through and putting the default values in. I can easily do that. Can my vulnerability management program check things that have been launched? Do I even know it's there? Do I even have a good asset inventory? We've got to run at the speed. Yes, I apologize. I brought up that demon that's in our environments. Asset inventory. Cloud can help us solve some of that problems too. But if we're not keeping pace, we definitely aren't going to be able to help mitigate. We're going to have to relook at how we actually understand this environment. We need the skills and knowledge to help us do that. We're only as good as the teams that we have as well. We aren't overstaffed. We don't have all the people that we need to help us do the jobs. Last thing we want to do is make our situation work because we're just not paying attention to what our staff is telling us, helping us bring it forward so we can actually remove those roadblocks. To me, a good leader, staff has their direction, know what they're doing. They come to us when they got the roadblock. Our job is to get that out of the way so they can keep doing the work. That's what we need to do, keep our team happy. If all they're doing is banging against the wall and feel they aren't being supported, they're going to leave. We need to make sure that everybody is able and happy and has the skills they need to move forward here. And we're going to need to work with our partners. We can't and do not do stuff in isolation. Most vulnerability management teams, one of two models. Primary, most popular out there is, we run the program, we've set it up, run the program, do all the scanning, run the tools, send it to our remediation partners to be fixed. Wait, I got to talk to people. And then it comes back to us to validate afterwards. But those remediation partners, we've got to work with them. They are the SMEs. We need to make sure that we have the importance put on vulnerability management from their understanding, their knowledge, so we can at least get the information to them so they can get the work done, and we'll all advance the organization. And finally, we also need to worry about those processes. Remember, let's make sure we're set up to actually run how our organization is now running, instead of taking that 25-year-old process and assuming it's going to work. Be willing to spend the time. It's not easy, but modifying the process or creating the new process that actually makes sense for the tooling, the environment that we're running in. Now, if you're interested in like some of the stuff that you've seen here, great. I appreciate that. Just a little bit of information about Leadership 516, the class. You find more information, take a look at sans.org/LDR516. We are moving from the management moniker over to the leadership. So you can find courses and information under both pages. But starting in 2024, all of this stuff for the vulnerability management program, building and leading those, the 516 will all be under the leadership. So we give you that link. Now you can take the course if you're interested on demand. We've got that available all the time. Current version dealt with from David, my co-author. Also, if you're interested and want to talk with me, 2 versions of the course coming, or 2 runs of the course coming up. We've got it going at CDI, so Cyber Defense Initiative, the one that's heading in Washington. That is going to be available for you in live online format, December 11th to 15th. We also have coming up for you in January at the Cloud Defender 2024. Again, live online, January 8th through 12th. Both of those are some of the next runs. If you want to see others that we're scheduling out into March and April already, but definitely 5-6 months in advance, take a look at the LDR 516 page. You'll be able to get the information that you want to help you understand when the runs are happening. Now, something coming up a little closer, we're running Thursday, November 2nd. There is the Cyber Compliance Countdown Forum. We've got tons of information that's going to be provided, because really, do you understand what's going on inside your organization today? What are the requirements? What are the mandates that are coming down the pipe towards you? It's a free session that we're having on here. We're going to focus on what we need to understand on all the different compliancy and regulated requirements out there, be it the DoD 8140, be it the SEC, the NIST-2 directive, the Cyber Beacon coming out of Europe. We have information Thursday, November 2nd at 10 a.m. Now, that's 10 a.m. Eastern. Now, in case you aren't able to join there, that will actually end up being available online after the facts, just so you can also help get the understanding. So that's just something that's coming up for you. Now, where I want a couple things. First of all, want to say thank you. I appreciate you taking the time to listen to the presentation today. And if you do have any questions, make sure you post it out there from the from the Zoom channel perspective. Put the Q&A available for us there. But I recognize some of you may not be, or you may listen to this afterwards. Please feel free to reach out if you do have questions. You've got me linked on there you can find me on LinkedIn, post questions out there, or if you want, also given my email address. We'll try and respond back. If I'm teaching, responses are slower, obviously, but happy to try and answer questions that people have. So if there are any questions, more than happy to take them right now. Do see something over in the channel immediately here. So first question that I know someone's asking about, and I'll try and summarize this down, just see it on the screen, dealing with the infrastructure as code. What is it that we need to try and understand here inside infrastructure as code in order to be able to deal with from a vulnerability management perspective? Something they hadn't thought about or even isn't part of the program right now. I mentioned earlier in the presentation here, but really infrastructure as code is how we deal with the orchestration inside our environment. So it's how we're originally setting things up and actually launching them inside the organization. We know that's how it works. Vulnerability management perspective, I take a look at it a bit more holistically, and how we approach it from the course is configuration management is a key component for us inside vulnerability management. So we should be taking a look at ensuring configurations are secure. That's one of the big challenges that we have when we're looking at infrastructure as code. Are we making sure that the configurations I'm assigning to the devices that are now being launched inside my organization are correct? The big challenge we have, do I make sure there aren't any mistakes or problems with that's going to open up a vulnerability for us or an attack vector coming in because of how we've set up and configured the environment? So that's where we want to take a look at it. There are specialized tools that can help us do the checking to see if we're following both best practices, obvious mistakes, etc. One that comes to mind right now would be something, it's called Checkoff, and able to check to see if there are any major problems with the code that we've created. So that's the major thing we want to take a look at from the infrastructure as code. So hopefully that helped answer the question. Take a look here, see something popped up. Okay. Summarizing through, there's a lot of information on that one. Oh, wow, yeah, is there ever. But looking at it from the containers, how do you recommend, what should we be dealing with from the containers? Because yes, we launched some in the environment. What kind of stuff should we be looking at again from a containerization perspective? Well, a couple things we want to do here. Containers, as we said, by definition, they're not supposed to change. They're also supposed to be short-lived. But let's go with what your definition of short-lived may vary, especially inside your organization. But normally containers are not up and running for days and days and days and days at hand. So from a vulnerability management perspective, doing it how we've been doing the vulnerability scanning of that environment may not be the most effective. Maybe we put an agent inside the container so it's up and running. We get the report back when the container goes, say, for 8 hours, 10 hours. Great. Even if it's up for 24. Reports back to the console. Are we actually remediating problems in that 24-hour window? Are we able to, even if it's up for a couple days? Am I responding to that in the time frame? Am I able to get a patch pushed out to fix it? Probably not, because those containers are supposed to be immutable, non-changing. So deploying the agent may not be the best way. Alternative option would be to do more image management and understanding of what's running in the environment. So scanning the image, keeping track of what's going on that the container launches from. When there's a problem, getting that fixed, something new in the environment. As we're creating them, as I mentioned, we want to tie into that process for creating the container images so we can fix them before it even hits production. Now, I'm not scanning actively every container when it runs. So with this one runs 300 times a day, it's up for 2 hours, let's say. No, track the usage of it. We need to understand, are things behaving normally? Or do we have those outliers inside the environment? Yeah, something's up. It normally runs for 2 hours. It's now running for 18. Maybe something's a problem there, needs to get looked at. So validating the images, tracking the usage is a new approach of how we are looking at containers. I still need to scan them, but I'm probably not scanning it real time as it's running because my program isn't set up to respond real time to the problems that are there. Track the image, understand the challenges there. Then when a new risk comes along or existing ones, I know how often it's actually used inside the environment. I can make an educated guess at the risk. Say you have a new vulnerability launched today, it's in 2 containers. One is a container that's called 100 times, runs for 30 minutes. Another one's a container that runs 50 times, but it's going on for 6 hours at a time. I at least have info now. I can evaluate the risk and decide maybe if I can only fix one today or in the next couple days, which container to look at. Maybe the one that's sticking around longer, maybe it's the one that's used more, but the organization can make that decision call from that perspective because I understand what is being used, and then we fix it in the pipeline, make it as the new image, and then it's called, and the problem is fixed for every one of those 100 or 50 times it runs in the organization. Now, seeing the time that we have here as well, and I don't see any more questions coming in, just want to say thank you to everybody for joining us today. Do appreciate you taking the time. And if you're listening afterwards, thanks again for watching this, trying to at least help move our vulnerability management programs forward. Again, appreciate you taking the time with me today, and we will see you in the near future, either at a SANS training event, another webcast, or if you run into me somewhere, please feel free to say hi. Enjoy your day. Thank you very much.